Midwest Nowhere podcast. My name is Scott Thompson. I am your host. Episode 4, we're going to be covering the second stage Turbine Blade by one of my favorite bands of all time, Coheed and Cambria. Thank you for joining me again. Get you guys updated on some news of things that's going on with me and Swenoda and stuff like that. Can say that we haven't been able to get together for a couple weeks as far as Swenoda's gone. Tyler was busy one week, and then I picked up another shift myself on a Monday, so I was out working. And we did get an update, though, from Mr. Guest that he's got scheduled surgery now, so this is good. March 6th, it sounds like his surgery is going to be taking place. I know that we aren't getting together this Monday, but I think the Monday before surgery, we might be able to see him quickly before he goes. I'm not sure how that falls on the calendar, but that's my hope at least. And definitely well wishes towards him as he goes into that situation. It's pretty scary for him, but all of us are just, trying to stay positive and that he's in the best hands possible. And he's getting done what needs to be done. And the doctors are saying that this type of procedure is a full recovery is expected 6 to 8 weeks, but it is still brain surgery. So obviously it comes with inherent risks, and for the individual, it's definitely scary thinking about. They'll put him to sleep, but they're gonna be cutting open my brain, man. Like it's really crazy that he's going through all that. But well wishes towards him, and again, look up any of our social media accounts. The link for his GoFundMe is still posted at the top of it. I think he's about $1,000 shy of his current goal right now. So if you have the means, please contribute to that. On the Midwest Nowhere side of things, not a whole lot in the last couple of weeks. To be honest, I picked up a couple extra shifts. I've been really sick. Just been fighting off the flu and then turned into a cold type of thing, and as you can hear, I'm still kind of wrestling with it now, but I'm definitely on the upswing. There was a good few days there where I wasn't sure if I was still human or not, but I came out of it, and last couple of days I've been feeling pretty good, just a little bit of sore throat and stuff like that, but nothing that's kept me from work or anything like that. So been able to make every obligation I have there, but it's just been a season, I think, for a lot of people feeling the illnesses go through and stuff like that. But on the plus side of things, it's kind of wild to do this. I'm about 2 hours later than I usually record these, as we just got back from an adventure taking the kids and my folks to Monster Jam at the US Bank Stadium. I think I mentioned in a previous episode that if we want to go and see anything cool like that, it's at least 3 hours one way and 3 hours back for us. So we left at 9:30 this morning, and we got back at about 9:45 tonight. So it's a full day. But my folks had never gone, and I'd never been. And obviously I got small kids, so they were all really jazzed about seeing the trucks and the jumps and the flips and all that sort of stuff. It was really crazy, but all I can say is if you haven't been, it's an absolute spectacle, and I would definitely recommend everybody sees it once, because then you'll get why people get so excited about it. It is not like what you watch on TV. I get pretty bored of that within a couple minutes, but when you're there and you're watching the competitions, and they've got it set up now that you can, the crowd can vote on their phones to rate the scores of the stunts and stuff like that they do. It was totally awesome. And seeing Gravedigger is an iconic brand. It's just holy crap, I can't believe seeing that in person is just, it's like seeing a celebrity kind of. It's really cool. But Gravedigger, just to give you a little bit of what our day was about, I will tell you this. Gravedigger, that dude goes out there, he's all hot, he's all excited, he smashes himself up, he has to get dragged out, he misses the first competition. Basically, he was kind of disqualified. They ended up putting, oh boy, who was it? Black Pearl. I think they put the Black Pearl in his place, just as like, hey, you did good enough, so go ahead to the next round, whatever. And so he misses out on all that. He misses on the second one, which is like the skill challenge or whatever. He comes back out at the end for the freestyle, which is where they've got like, what, 2 minutes to like kind of just do whatever. Kind of, they're supposed to try and hit every ramp, and they're supposed to, yeah, it's like wow factor, you know, just like doing stunts, basically. And he comes out, he's got no shell, it's just the cage. He's doing the same thing he did the first time, just real hard, just hitting jumps, banging around, and before you know it, he plows like sideways into one of these giant ramps. And when, you know, if they're they got that covering and stuff, it was kind of like, well, I figure this must be safe, like for the drivers, they're professionals, whatever. This was like, he didn't have any covering on his truck, so it's just the cage. He plows into it. You could see the thing filled with dirt with how hard he hit it. And I'm like, I don't know if he's okay. Like, it seemed like he really wasn't all right. And he did get out of it, but it took longer than any of the other recoveries that we saw. It took a lot longer to get him out. But just as like somebody who doesn't know like anything about big brand monster trucks or, you know, Monster Jam, how they do business or whatever, it's like you expected to see a lot more Gravedigger, and he just, I mean, if you were going to rate him to what he did versus the other ones who went through all the competitions, competed well, whatever, their trucks made it. Some of them had to be pulled out, but for the most part, you know, there were 12 trucks. I would say at least 9 of them made it through the whole thing without stalling out. Gravedigger's attitude, being a little bit too excited, trying to like do bigger stuff, but not in as much of a controlled way, and then making it so that basically we didn't see a whole lot of him. I kind of felt like, Gravedigger, is this your job, man? Like, what are you doing? You goofing around? I don't know. Me and Gravedigger got beef. I liked Megalodon was super cool. It's like a truck that looks like a shark. they had a unicorn one. They had Monster Mutt was like everybody's favorite because his freestyle was very spectacular. Me and Leighton were in the bathroom at the time, so I don't know what was so great about it, but I guess the dog nailed it at the end. I don't know. We had a good time. It was a lot of fun, and we'll definitely go again. And we're kind of doing some research, like, are there other companies who do monster trucks? What are their shows like? Because, you know, one thing that we didn't see was we didn't see them crushing cars. That's kind of what you expect from a monster truck, is when you're going to crush a car. Well, turns out, Hot Wheels Monster Truck Live, boom, they got car crushing. So there's different brands out there that do different shows throughout the years. So, I don't know. I guess it's kind of funny because, like, I feel like growing up, like, we kind of made fun of it. Like, it was kind of like who would want to, like, this just seems so, you know, nerdy or hick or whatever. And I'm like, as a almost 40-year-old man taking my kids to go, I'm like, why have I not thought that this would be like the coolest thing ever? Like, they're gigantic trucks and they're going to smash stuff. It's going to be super loud and it's just awesome. Like, and when you've never seen a monster truck in real life and you first see one go and it goes up the ramp and it gets, I don't know, 20 feet clearance and it comes slamming down. The amount of joy that I felt watching that thing do that was not reasonable. It was genuinely a wonderful experience. So I'm going to be wearing Monster Jam gear in public. I'm going to be one of those people. And if anybody gives me a hard time, I'm going to punch them in the nose. And that's just that's all I have to say about it. Nobody is allowed to talk crap about Monster Jam anymore around me. So that's what I learned in this last 2 weeks, other than I hate being sick and I worked a lot. And that's always good for the family and good for the business. And, you know, got no complaints. Life is good. Got a couple days off coming up and getting ready for another round. So with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into our album of focus today. So the second stage Turbine blade. personal story about how I got to know Coheed and Cambria. So back 2001-ish, I was a huge Hot Water Music fan at that time. I was very big into Thrice and their album, The Illusion of Safety. They were coming through on tour. And there was a website that you could get records and CDs off of and listen to samples and stuff. I believe it was called Interpunk. And I remember seeing the flyer somewhere online before we got tickets. And I can't remember who all went, but I thought it was the Richards. I thought it was me, Jake Brody, and Adam. But correct me if I'm wrong on that, boys. But I knew we were going to the show a couple months in advance. And I remember listening to a couple samples of the Second Stage Turbine Blade on that website and just being like really confused. Thrice was kind of pioneering the metalcore, punk metal type stuff in the realm of emo that was going on at that time. Hot Water Music was very deep into their career at that time. They were on the Caution tour, and they had turned their direction a couple times sonically by the time 2001, 2002 rolled around. Now, Coheed was fresh on the scene, and we used to get up to St. Cloud to buy records once in a while, or like you say, for us, that's like nicer shopping. We got some towns around us that we can do like some functional shopping at, but back then when you wanted to go shopping for nice clothes for school, whatever type of retail that was more name brand stuff, pricier things, St. Cloud was just kind of like the closest option that we had. And I don't know what trip it was, but for some reason I found myself up there with my folks with a little bit of my own pocket money, or I talked them into buying it. I can't remember, but I didn't mow the lawn as much as I should have, but I had a little pocket money once in a while. I bought the Second Stage Turbine Blade on CD. I brought it home and memorized it. I just loved it, and I would read the lyric sheet along with it as I've explained that that's really like kind of like my method for getting to know an album. Headphones on, shut the world out, get the booklet out, and really dig in. And oh God, I probably was 15, and it was one of the first albums that I read the lyric sheets to, and they didn't make a single lick of sense. I couldn't draw any. It wasn't like it was Sigur Rós, where it was like in some Icelandic, or didn't they put out a whole album in a language they made up? It's not like it's that. It's just that the lyrical content was not autobiographical. It wasn't songs about girls. It wasn't songs about being mad, and it wasn't. Some of it's not even first person. You can't tell what person it's being spoken from. And I didn't know anything about the band other than they're going to open for Hot Water Music and Thrice, and I wanted to be familiar with the opener. I was going to school, and I was ranting and raving about the record that I just loved it. I borrowed it to a couple friends. They gave it back to me very quickly and said, "Quit bringing me this trash. What are you doing?" I couldn't find anybody who seemed to get it the way that I was understanding it, but there was something about the tone, something about the delivery, something about Claudio's voice, the mystery of the lyrics, and not knowing what it was about that just really clicked with me. And then I saw them, and this was at the Quest in Minneapolis. Like I say, it would have to be, if it wasn't 2001, it was the fall of 2002. This record was new, and I only got it a couple of months before we went to the show. And I was very close. It was general admission But as far as flooring goes, I was able to work my way up to third, fourth row. I mean, I was up there, and there wasn't a lot of pressure. People didn't know who Coheed and Cambria was, but this was the album they were touring, and they played it. They played it correctly. The thing about Coheed and what they do to this day, because I saw them last summer, open for Primus in St. Cloud at the new Ledge amphitheater, and they played songs. I can't remember if they played anything off this record, but I know that they played the opening track to the second record, and it's such a passionate opening, and they played it wholeheartedly. And it was kind of a trip, because seeing them play it then, this last summer, 20 good years later, 20 plus years later, the same fire, the same passion, and in a Primus environment, they don't know who Coheed and Cambria was. There were Coheed and Cambria t-shirts around, but I would say it was an easy 80-20 split in the crowd. And it was amazing, because I'm like, these guys in my circles, these guys are giants. And I'm in a crowd again full of people who don't know who they are. And it was just nuts. But that's really what it felt like when I saw them the first time. I felt like I was looking around and seeing 3 or 4 people in a sea of a few hundred that were singing along, or even really paying much attention, like most people with opening bands. Like that's your slot. But I was hooked, like every line, staring them in the face, just studying what these guys were doing, and I felt like I was seeing masters of their craft, like guys who just had their art down. And that they also feel it in a way that's personal, that's not business. And that's important to me when it comes to a great record and a great band, is that it has to kind of speak in authenticity that shows me that they don't do this because they're trying to see if something will work and something will catch on and people will like it and whatever. We have to. We do this because we have to. It's a part of how we're made. It's a part of how we survive. And like the hot water music ethos that I described in episode 1 and will continue to describe throughout, because that's like the silver lining thread that goes through all the bands that I'm into. It's this idea of, if it's not worth doing passionately, it's not worth doing at all. And so in a live performance scenario, it's the same thing. Now, that doesn't always have to mean screaming your heart out or jumping and moving around a lot and all this sort of stuff, but there's a feeling you get when you watch a person who lives their art in a music setting that, like I said, it speaks an authenticity that you can't teach. Coheed had that from the first time I saw them, and it's so wonderful to see a band, like I say, 23, 24 years later, play a song from that era, and it's still there, if not more so. I mean, I was really shook when I saw them this summer that they still had so much heart in what they're doing. And it's a band that I respect a lot. So that's kind of like a big explanation of why I chose this record, why this record is kind of tied to my personal musical choices and understanding. But we'll get into Greg's notes about Coheed, about this record, about how it was made, all the usual stuff that we go through. So I'll go ahead and get started in that. Coheed and Cambria, for those who don't know, is an American progressive rock band formed in 1995 from Nyack, New York. Their music blends an element of progressive rock, post-hardcore, and alternative metal, often featuring elaborate sci-fi storytelling. Most of their albums follow the Amory Wars, a narrative that was created as a concept by the frontman Claudio Sanchez. Some key facts of just their general biography is that they formed in '95 as Shibuti, and then later changed their name to Coheed and Cambria in 2001. They've been known for creating these concept albums. Some key albums that have been popular for them: In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3, which came out in 2003. Good Apollo on Burning Star 4 came out in 2005. And more recently, Vaxis Act 2, A Window of the Waking Mind, came out in 2022. And yeah, they're noted for mixing progressive rock, punk, and metal elements. They've had some lineup changes over the years. The current members, as they stand today, Claudio Sanchez plays guitar and sings. He's been with them since its inception in '95, as has Travis Stever, who plays guitar and does backing vocals. Josh Epart played drums in the early years from 2000 to 2006, left for 5 years, came back in 2011, and still plays drums to this day. Their current bass player, Zach Cooper, he joined in 2012 and is still with them, which Zach Cooper and me had beef, because when they walked on stage this last summer, he was the only one I didn't recognize, and I'm like, this person who's a jerk, who's like, hey, there's certain people who are supposed to be on this stage. When I think of this band name, who's this goofy bass player? Who's he think he is? And then I watched him throughout the course of the set, and I'm like, he's got the chops, plays well. They seem like everybody clicks good. This is good chemistry. I'm a jerk. He's fine. And yet I still had to look, because I had a lot of love for Michael Todd, their original bass player. And I knew that he had issues, but I thought they'd kind of been resolved. That was the last that I knew. But when I found out that Zach Cooper had been with them since 2012, and I realized that I've had more years than that I fell off with them and didn't even pay attention to what was going on, I'm like, you know what? Maybe Zach Cooper's been holding down the fort and I should just shut up. So Zach Cooper gets a pass. Michael Todd, like we say, former member, bass player from 2000 to 2011, left due to legal issues. Chris Penny played drums for him in that gap from 2007 to 2011. He used to play drums for the Dillinger Escape Plan, and he replaced Eppert, but then he left due to just creative differences. Even so, I'm all Michael Todd's the real bass player or whatever. John Carleo played bass for Shibuti, so what's the problem with he wasn't even like he was there from day one, really, so that's fine. And Nate Kelly played drums for him from 95 to 2000. So though I do have a lot of love for Josh Epart, because he's the first drummer that I saw, and he is back with them now, I knew about this gap too. And I wanted to get some details on these lineup changes, just because it's interesting to know, and kind of helps paint a better picture as to why they're where they are now. But why was there changes? So Nate Kelly from Shibuti into Coheed, and then Josh Epart took over. He left during that time period due to creative and personal differences. Josh Epart joined in 2000, bringing a more groove-based and hip-hop influence to the drumming style. So he's responsible for that funk that they have in so many of their songs. And he was the drummer on the second stage, Turbine Blade, which helped define their early progressive and post-hardcore sound. The bass player situation, with Carleo being part of the Shibuti days, but then he left before they became Coheed and Cambria. Michael Todd's bass playing added depth and complexity to their sound. Particularly, he stands out more on In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3 and Good Apollo on Burning Star 4, his style was melodic, but it was heavy, and it complemented the very technical guitar work that Claudio and Travis have going on all the time. But then why did Epart take off and Chris Penny took over for a while? So he had substance abuse issues, the drummer did. And so Chris Penny took over and joined, and he fulfilled a critical role picking up with No World for Tomorrow. And his technical drumming made things a bit more intricate and kind of precise, like that how metal can have a very like precise mathematical type of sound to it. He kind of brought that to the feel, whereas Epart, like they said, he was more groove oriented. But due to contractual issues, he wasn't credited for the studio recordings. So I mean, right off the bat, that's going to cause some tension. And then there were creative differences in 2011. So Epart, who got well, came back, kind of brought the classic Coheed sound back, bringing things that were more loose, heavy groove-oriented drum style that fans really love about the early records. And his presence just contributes to an overall warmth and energy that the band feels. And the Afterman albums and beyond encompass that. As far as Todd goes, being replaced by Zach Cooper, so I said that he had legal issues, and what I was aware of was I thought that there was some substance issues going on. It looks like he was arrested in 2011 for armed robbery, and then he left the band. I thought that the robbery was about something opiate related. Cooper brought a more adaptable and groove-oriented bass style, making his debut on the Afterman Ascension, which came out in 2012. And his playing helped stabilize the rhythm section after kind of a tumultuous period with Michael Todd leaving, but then also with that part coming back, it full circled things for him. But just to wrap that section up, while Coheed's gone through some significant lineup changes, Claudio Sanchez and Travis Stevener have remained the consistent core of the band. And the return of Epart and the addition of Cooper has helped stabilize the sound, leading to a strong resurgence in the 2010s. The second stage, Turbine Blade, is a critical album in their history, setting a foundation for the Amory Wars saga and their signature sound. So, why didn't I understand the lyrics of the record? It was a concept album, but it wasn't just a concept album. They're kind of a concept band. I can say, I'm just going to give you this little snippet, and then I got to get off the beaten path a little bit because I do have more to tell about this. The second stage, Turbine Blade, kicks off the Amory Wars, a sci-fi epic that was created by Claudio Sanchez. It tells a story of Coheed and Cambria, Kilgannon, and their role in a galactic conflict. Okay, so when I saw them, I got, like I said, just enamored with the band. Started going on their website, and they used to have, I don't know if they still do or not, I guess it would have been a good idea to look, but I know the website's changed from what it used to be, but message boards used to be like huge, and Coheed and Cambria's message board was no exception. There were threads that were theories about the lyrics of the songs. Some people were closer to the guys in the band than others, but some people were able to figure out that there was a sci-fi story and that the song lyrics were trying to operate as a soundtrack with certain parts being emphasized and some of it even being able to be dissected as dialogue. But as far as piecing it together goes, it was not linear. And that's so fair enough that I blindly couldn't just pick up the lyric sheet and make sense of it. But what was cool was that we saw them again shortly after because they came through on the Warped Tour, back when the Warped Tour used to be in the parking lot of the Metrodome. And when we saw them on that Warped Tour, they had developed the idea into comic books, and they hadn't done anything official until that tour. They released the first issue. They called it the Bag Online Adventures of Coheed and Cambria, and you could only buy it on their merch table on this Warped Tour. And I think my sister and I both bought a copy of it because we kind of knew that it was going to be a big deal. And reading through that, and just a couple lines standing out from the lyrics, getting images of being able to understand what was going on with some of the lyrics was just mind-blowing. And what a way to engage your audience. Like, what a way to draw in a crowd to listen to a story through this multimedia kind of format. It was so much fun to be a part of it, to be trying to guess what it was about, theorizing with other people. I remember sitting on the front step of the Tilke residence with Benno, because he was one of the few people that I could talk to about this band, because there was so much to talk about and there were so few people in my circles that were into it. But Benno was one that would really he latched onto it as much as I did. And I remember sitting there just being like, trying to explain some of the lyrics. And I have some quotes here later on. I'll get into it. We just have these long talks, these just theorizing, trying to figure out what the songs were about. And so there's a thing to know, is that this is the record that kicks off the Amory Wars, the big story, right? So the album title has a hidden meaning. The title represents the second stage of Coheed and Cambria's career, because they're transitioning from their earlier band Shibuti into Coheed and Cambria. But there's also ties into the spaceship themes of the Amory Wars. The title of Coheed and Cambria's debut album, the second stage Turbine Blade, holds significant meaning both personally and with the band as a conceptual narrative. On the personal side of things, Claudio drew inspiration from his father's occupation, because his dad worked at an aircraft factory, and he specifically heat-treated components known as second-stage turbine blades. The detail is highlighted in a fan discussion and interviews, and emphasizes personal significance behind the album's title, which is cool enough on its own. But within the Amory Wars, the band's expansive sci-fi narrative, the album serves as a second chronological chapter, despite being their debut release. The second stage in the title reflects its positioning in the storyline, making it a pivotal point in the saga of Coheed and Cambria Kilgannon. This dual-layered titling showcases the band's blend of personal experience with intricate storytelling, enriching their the depth of their music and its themes. So that's all cool stuff. As far as producers and studio stuff goes, this record was produced by Michael Birnbaum and Chris Bittner. They're a production duo who's known for working with progressive and alternative rock bands, and they co-own the studio Applehead Recordings in Woodstock, New York. Key albums that they've worked on: they did the second stage Turbine Blade. They also did In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3. They made a record for a band called 3, which is called Wake Pig. And they've also worked on Josh Ephart, the drummer for Coheed. He's got a hip-hop project called Word Science. And it's spelled W-E-E-R-D. Maybe I should pronounce that weird. Weird. Word? I don't know. Weird Science. But it's a hip-hop project. They worked on that with him as well. Their production style is known for creating more atmospheric, organic soundscapes, balancing raw energy with polished clarity, and they help Coheed develop their signature mix of post-hardcore, prog, and emo. That studio, Applehead Studio in New York, Applehead Recording in Woodstock, New York, rather. It's considered a high-end studio which caters to rock and alternative acts. They offer analog and digital recording capabilities. Notable artists that they've hosted besides Coheed, that band 3, and Dillinger Escape Plans were recorded there as well. The atmosphere is secluded. It's a creative environment in upstate New York. It's ideal for bands who are seeking a focused recording experience. Being that it's upstate, I imagine kind of like being south of the cities like Pachyderm is, just a place to get out of the way. So a big part of the production of this record that stands out to me, and something that I did dig into a little bit when I first got the record, was that there's a huge, weird guitar solo in the opening track, Time Consumer. And I've always known that it was Dr. No, the guitarist for Bad Brains. His name happens to be Gary Miller, goes by Dr. No. And I just remember at the time being like, the guy from the Bad Brains plays solo on this. That's cool. But now, being as far removed from things as I am, it's like their debut record, they had a guy of that caliber come in and rip a solo on the opening track. How did that happen? Like, that seems odd, right? Well, I'll start at the top and work my way down here. So Dr. No, like I said, his name is actually Gary Miller. He's a legendary guitarist for the hardcore punk rock band Bad Brains, and plays the guitar solo in Time Consumer, one of the more standout moments in the second stage Turbine Blade. The story behind it is that the producers, Michael Birnbaum and Chris Bittner, who produced the second stage Turbine Blade, have connections with Dr. No through the New York music scene. At the time, Bad Brains was working with the same production team, making the collaboration possible. So they were hooked up by the producers. And a little bit about Bad Brains, because not everybody studies everything as weirdly as I do. But if you don't know who Bad Brains is, but you do know who, say, Black Flag or Minor Threat or, bands of that caliber and that era goes, you're missing out. Bad Brains is of that same era and of that same level of hardcore, all black men. 1977 was when they formed in DC. I've got a short bio on them. Their original members being HR, his name was Paul Hudson. Dr. No played guitar, is Gary Miller. Daryl Jennifer played bass. Earl Hudson played drums. And they were pioneers of hardcore punk. One of the first hardcore punk rock bands known for their fast tempo, intense energy, and they had this philosophy they called PMA, which stood for Positive Mental Attitude. Their self-titled record, which came out in '82, was just called Bad Brains, and it's considered one of the greatest punk records of all time. They have kind of a unique reggae fusion. Unlike most hardcore bands, they also played reggae, often switching from blistering punk to a slow groove, slow groove heavy dub type reggae, which just kind of screams Fugazi too, considering that they were all, you're talking Minor Threat, you're talking about DC, so those influences all check out. The mix of styles set them apart from their peers, and it influenced other bands such as Sublime, Fishbone, and Rage Against the Machine. Key records, if you're getting into Bad Brains, you want to do a deep dive, you want to listen to their self-titled record. The Raw self-titled debut featured Band in DC and Sailing On. Key songs: Rock for Light, 1983, produced by Rick Ocasek, of the Cars, and refined their sound. Eye Against Eye came out in '86, which added some funk and metal elements, with HR singing over the phone from jail for one of the tracks. Quickness came out in 1989, a more metal-influenced record. And lastly, Into the Future just came out. Just came out for us. 2012, their latest studio album, and it continues their signature punk and reggae blend. Bad Brains really had a cultural impact. They were banned from clubs in DC due to their intense performances, leading them to move to New York, and inspired the whole East Coast hardcore scene. Credited with influencing bands like Metallica, the Beastie Boys, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Coheed and Cambria, and more. Known for their spiritual themes and focusing on a positive mental attitude, which was an idea that they took from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. So how did this collaboration happen? While recording at Applehead recording in Woodstock, New York, the producers suggested bringing in Dr. No to add a solo to Time Consumer. Dr. No agreed, and he laid the solo down in one take. Check that. One take, he laid that solo down, adding his signature mix of punk and aggressive melodies and phrasing. His bluesy, wah-influenced solo contrasts Coheed's post-hardcore sound, making it a standout moment on the album. And Claudio has spoken on it. He's expressed in interviews that having Dr. No on the record was a huge honor, as Bad Brains were a very big influence on him and the band. The solo helped add authenticity and punk credibility to Coheed's debut. You gotta have punk points, people. You gotta have them. And Coheed coming out the gate with a guitar solo from Dr. No on the first track, sign the check. It's a done deal. It helped bridge the gap between the progressive ambitions and their hardcore roots. It's one of those cool, unexpected moments in music history where punk and prog collide. So that's good stuff. If you don't just kind of get a happy heart with that whole thing, I can't help you, because that's the kind of stuff that I like looking up these deep dives on the albums for, is to try and find these kind of stories and facts about how that all came to be. It's very cool. Number 4. So there's a telephone ringing on the album, and apparently that opening track, which has the distorted voicemail sound, was taken from Claudio's mom, her voicemail recorder. So that's super cool to know where that little audio clip came from. There's a hidden track, right? It's titled Godsend Conspirator. It's notable for its hidden elements, which have intrigued fans and sparked discussions about its connections to the Amory Wars narrative. Hidden track details. So, and it's confused me because I don't know what came first, the apple or the tree or whatever, but there's this iRobot thing at the end of the record, and there was that movie with Will Smith, right? iRobot. And then Coheed's got this but it's IRO dash bot. So they're different in their spelling, but I envision them being very similar in what he was trying to get across. I don't know which one came first. But what it says here is that in the album's original 2002 release, Godsend Conspirator extends beyond its listed duration, and they incorporate a hidden track, iRobot. This track commences after a period of silence following Godsend Conspirator. Ambient sounds and eerie voices. The hidden segment features ambient sounds and eerie voices, creating an atmospheric interlude. While specific interpretations vary, fans have speculated that these elements symbolize transitions or significant events within the Amory Wars storyline. So if you hear on any of their records that there's like a break and there's like some tones or whatever, it's not meant to be blank. It means something's happening here. With the Coheed and Cambria fan base community, there's a consensus that the ambient interlude serves as a narrative device, possibly indicating a jump in time or a shift in perspective from the Amory Wars, or within the Amory Wars. However, official explanations from the band regarding the precise meaning of these sounds remain limited, leaving space for personal interpretation. A question that came up after studying all of that much about it was, are there other bands who either put out records or just in general as a band have this level of concept going on? Storytelling, not necessarily written books or comic books or whatever, but just like what are the other big like concept records that are out there? And I got a whole list of them, and they're separated by genre. So in the progressive and rock artist section, Russia's 2112 is a dystopian sci-fi story about an oppressive regime that's banning music. And you would think that a person like me has already like memorized that record too, but it's before my time. I should, but I haven't studied it. But Pink Floyd's The Wall, that's an obvious one. I have seen that movie that goes with the record, and it's a psychological journey through the isolation of a rock star, which inspired by Roger Waters' own life. And I knew this one too, the Mars Volta, Deloused in the Comatorium. It's a surreal narrative about a man in a coma after a suicide attempt. That was, man, and it was kind of in that same time period too. I think that's why it was such a memorable thing, because I remember being real deep into Coheed at the time, and then somebody telling me that, like, yeah, this is a concept record too, and then hearing those first couple of opening tracks on that Mars Volta record, it's like, oh, I need to dig in more. Yeah, love that band. Dream Theater, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory, came out in 99. Reincarnation Mystery involving hypnosis, past lives, and murder. And King Diamond, Abigail, 1987. A horror story about a haunted mansion and an evil spirit. So that's good stuff. Metal artists that we have in the concept realm, Mastodon's record Leviathan is a metal adaptation of Moby Dick. That jumped out at me when I read that. I was like, I've listened to some Mastodon. I saw Mastodon actually a couple of years ago with my little brother. I saw him with Gojira and, gosh, who else was there? There's that great death metal band that's there. I can't remember the name right now, but yeah. Mastodon, Leviathan, a metal adaptation of Moby Dick. Ghost has got a record called Meloria. And God, I see that name everywhere too, and I haven't listened to them yet, but I need to. Back up a second. Mastodon, Gojira, the opening band was Lorna Shore. What am I doing? I mean, that was half the reason we were there. Those guys are great. We love Lorna Shore in my house, and my little brothers. We're big fans. I actually got him a copy of the EP that's got To the Hellfire on it for Christmas this year, and his jaw about hit the floor. Because it's one of those EPs that, like, to find it on vinyl is a little tricky. It's not readily available, but I did find a copy for him, and that was special. Ghost's record, Meloria, is a loose narrative about a dystopian society in spiritual decline. Opeth, they've got a record, Still Life, that came out in 99. It's a love story about an outcast remaining in his hometown and leading to tragedy. Alternative and indie artists, obviously, Green Day's American Idiot. It's a rock opera following Jesus of Suburbia and as he navigates rebellion and disillusionment. No thanks. My Chemical Romance, The Black Parade. I've come around on those guys. I hated My Chem. I really thought they were obnoxious. I thought they were trying to be gothy cutesy, and I just thought it was gross. And it was too late. It was too late for me with My Chem. I was just too old by the time they finally came around. I was on the earlier wave of stuff like that. But now, Helena, I'm telling you what, if that chorus does nothing for you, you might be dead inside. So My Chem gets a little bit of a pass. I'm glad dude don't drink no more, because I saw the videos, he was a mess. The Journey of the Patient Through Death and the Afterlife is what their record, The Black Parade, is actually all about. It's a concept record too. I would like to dig into that more. And here you go. Let's talk about Nine Inch Nails. Year Zero, 2007, man. My buddy had the record, wasn't it The Fragile? I think that's the name of the record. We're in This Together Now. That was a big hit. I really liked that Nine Inch Nails track from back in the day, but Trent Reznor is one of those people that I probably haven't studied enough either and really need to get around to. But their record, Year Zero from 2007, is a dystopian story about a totalitarian government in the future. We've got even a little stack of hip-hop records, which if that don't make you happy, I don't know. But Kendrick Lamar has got a record. Good Kid, Mad City, 2012. A coming-of-age story set in Compton. I'm going to tell you I previewed this one. I listened to the first 4 tracks. It checks out. It is absolutely like listening to a movie. And there are twists and turns. I was hooked. It's very good. Very good. Janelle Monáe, The Arc Android from 2010. A futuristic sci-fi saga featuring her android alter ego, Cindy Mayweather. That sounds strange as hell. I'm interested. Moving on, number 6 here on our top 10 list of things to know about Coheed and Cambria's second stage Turbine played, for those who are still keeping score. There's a character introduced in this record, but it's kind of secretive. The Crowing. And there's a song on the next record called The Crowing. One of my favorites of all time, honestly. And but apparently the song Everything Evil has a reference to this character and about Claudio Kilgannon discovering his destiny. So in the record, Everything Evil introduces the character Claudio Kilgannon, who discovered his destiny as a savior of the universe. And this revelation has set the stage for an overarching narrative of the Amory Wars. Subsequently, on the next record, the track The Crowing delves deeper into Claudio's journey, highlighting his internal struggles and the challenges he faces as he embraces his role. The song's lyrics explore themes of self-discovery, destiny, and the weight of responsibility. Something that's good to know about this too is that there are characters like Coheed and Cambria. You see the band name. These are character names in the story. Claudio, singer's name, also is a character in the story. But he doesn't mean it to be him exactly. It's kind of a blurry area of him interjecting himself into his own story, but also making it fantastical and not autobiographical all the time. Sometimes he's been pretty upfront about some things about the story being personal, for sure. Kind of like the idea of the Monstar is like it's almost like a disease, like a drug, like a disease that gets like spread amongst the people by these dragonflies. But what that was meant to represent in his personal life, from the interviews I've listened to, is he's explaining it's people being infected by things like substance abuse and different things of that nature that are destroying the lives of the people around him at the time while he's writing these songs, and continues on to. But he takes the sci-fi story as a way of kind of coping with what everybody else is doing and finding a way to address it without being direct. Very clever. Very clever. And hey, look at number 7. The album was inspired by Claudio's personal life. While it's a sci-fi story, the themes of loss and struggle reflect Claudio's real-life experiences, including the death of some close family members, as he explained in a Rolling Stone interview, which, if you're interested, is available on YouTube. This is the part where I want to get into some key lyrics. So I had a hard time finding a lot that made sense personally, but I had ones that stood out when I was listening to it. A lot of it, you could pick a lot of hooks. That he has a lot of strong melodies that convey feelings differently for different people. But for me, when he has the line in Time Consumer, pain is only a pulse if you just stop feeling it. And when I was talking about being on the front step of the Tilke residence, trying to sort out the lyrical content with Benno and not ever having much of anything, one of the first lightning bolts, I remember finally saying, dude, we got to listen to Everything Evil again. I think I figured something out. And what I thought I figured out was I thought that there was a court case. I remember thinking that there was like a trial going on. And I didn't have much more than that figured out. But the lines from Everything Evil that I remember like very slowly saying, I'm like, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to the sound that remains in question in hopes to solidify a truce amongst the children and the jury that stands the verdict. See, it sounds like madness, right? But for us, at the time, it was like, oh, like in a courtroom. Yeah, dude, like in a courtroom. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. What's the rest of it about? Got no idea. We struggled, but it really brought back a good memory because I really enjoyed that, and I remember that lightning bolt coming and being like, I think we're figuring this out, man. It was good stuff. My favorite song, though, of the album is Delirium Trigger. It's always been my favorite song of the Second Stage Turbine played. And I think that there's a lot of lines I could pull from that one that are favorite lyrics of mine. But I really, what stood out to me was the line, parasitic cyst, I can't stand to watch. It's coming up and out of your chest. And the reason why that stood out to me was because my wife and I like to watch movie franchises. We will watch movie franchises in like storyline order instead of release date order, different things like that. We recently got through Batman. We're about to start Transformers. And not too long ago, we did the whole Alien versus Predator franchise. And what these franchises, like why we pick them, is they're ones that we either have only seen one or two of, or they're ones that we've seen none of. And it's just a way for us to, like, you know, Indiana Jones is a cultural institution. You don't want to be that guy standing there going, people are talking about Indiana Jones and you got no idea like what they could be talking about at all. Like it's good to just like know a little bit about everything, right? So, and we get sick of watching the same TV shows and whatever. So Alien versus Predator was one where, like, I've watched the first Predator movie. She'd never seen any of them. I think I fell asleep trying to watch the first Alien movie twice and never got into it. But now we've seen, like, the whole thing, and it's like, we love it. We honestly thought it was really great. And when he says in that Delirium Trigger, parasitic cyst, I can't stand to watch. It's coming up and out of your chest. I'm absolutely imagining a xenomorph, and I'm like, I wonder if that's what Claudio was referencing, like something that had to do with the Monstar, something that had to do with them being infected by the disease or whatever, and it like making monsters, and you know. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I was like, never realized that there could possibly be an alien reference in the Coheed and Cambria record. That's pretty cool. So it contains one of Coheed's oldest songs. Second Stage Turbine Blade has the song Time Consumer that we've talked about a little bit now. And it was originally written during Shibuti's days. And it was one of their first songs that solidified their new sound. I.e. Last Fall, Swenoda, Hello, right? There's certain songs that they just become that one that it's like it is a reference of a turning point for sure. And that is definitely one that I think it makes sense to highlight it, you know. They also name drop Shibuti during the beginning of Devil in Jersey City. If you're listening for that little sound clip, you'll hear him say, it's like this little tiny laugh and then says Shibuti. So that's kind of cool to know where that name came from. And Shibuti was actually incorporated in the Amory Wars storyline as a character too. In the narrative, Shibuti represents an early version of the protagonist, Claudio Kilgannon, who underwent the transformation throughout the story. The character Shibuti appears in the larger Amory universe and is often used as a reference to Claudio's past and his journey of self-discovery, struggling with identity and his destiny. The transformation from a band name to a character is part of a broader concept of the Amory Wars, where many of the elements from Coheed and Cambria's earlier music were later woven into fictional narratives about the band's albums. It's fun. It's just good stuff. So Something about the drums is weird on this record. Josh Eppert did play drums on the final record, but that Nate Kelly, he actually played the demo. Like, imagine, hey, we got a demo version of our record done now, and we're waiting for health and wellness so we can get into the studio. Well, they had a different drummer play on their demo version of their album, and then Josh Eppert played the final version of it. I was curious if Nate Kelly was doing anything musically, because that's just like, yeah, you played drums on the demo for one of the, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest records I know of. And people like that don't usually just put drumsticks down, right? So what is he doing now? Well, as of February 2025, this is what we know. Nate Kelly, being the original drummer and backing vocalist for Shabooty, is still actively engaged in several projects. He has a custom snare drum company called Kelly Drums, and due to the high demand, you usually have to wait 2 to 3 months for your order to arrive. He plays in a band called the Peach Trees, which is a local band in Enid, Oklahoma. They recently announced their first show of 2025 at a place called The Cooker. That was in January. He's done some live sound sessions. He has shared his performances on Facebook. You can find him. He's not a recluse. And he's continued his passion for music through his craftsmanship and his, participating in his local music scene. So yeah, that's, what do you want from the guy? He's doing the business. He's taking care of stuff. He's getting it done. Last, number 10. It wasn't an immediate hit, but it has become a cult classic. The album did not chart when it was released, but word of mouth and relentless touring helped Coheed and Cambria build a devoted fan base. Today, it's considered a classic progressive rock and post-hardcore album. Specific, and just like a lot of these records, specific sales figures are not available for the second stage Turbine Blade, but it's cool to know it was released on March 5th through Equal Vision. Over the years, the album has seen several reissues, including limited vinyl pressings. For instance, there was a 20th anniversary release with just 500 copies released on yellow colored vinyl. My copy is a 20th anniversary copy as well. I think mine's smoke. What's my sticker say? Transparent black. Looks like smoke. The exact sales numbers remain undisclosed. The album has maintained a dedicated fan base, leading to multiple re-releases and special editions in the following years. So, as the others I've mentioned as well, the other records we've talked about, reissues are a sign of monetary stability. So, we don't need to know that how many copies it sold. We know that it's made enough to be worth people continuing to press it and continuing to put it out and make it available for people. Some notes on the vinyl pressings. Originally pressed in 2002 on black vinyl, 500 copies, Defiance Records, Germany. Remember, that's the same label that puts out records for Hot Water Music in Germany. Very good people to know. The second pressing was by Equal Vision in 2011. So they reissued it. Equal Vision only originally put it out on CD. And that was on white vinyl. How many copies? 1,000 white, 500 yellow, and then 1,700 transparent black. That's the one I have. So, still not very many copies though, physically. What are you talking about? 3,200? So yeah, let's take a look at it. This is a good place to get it out. So I bought it cheapo. I think I bought it at cheapo. Yeah. in the cities. Maybe only a couple of years ago, but it was because I had it on CD growing up, and you can't buy that original pressing of the one from Germany for less than, well, what used to be, it was 200 years ago when I looked at it. I don't know what it's looking like now, but it stopped me from buying it. And for Coheed vinyl, I always wanted to buy them in order because I love the first 5 albums so much. I don't know the ones after that as well, but I went on a deep dive when I saw them last year. I got caught up with all the late material, and it's all good. That's the thing, it's all good. So I'm like, it's one of those bands that at a certain point I will collect them through, but I needed to start. And I just couldn't start with a $200 record. I couldn't talk myself into it. And I knew that there were reissues, but these reissues, I mean, even seeing those in stores was rare, and seeing them available online was kind of rare. Like, usually they were sold out pretty quick too. But Cheapo had a copy of this. They didn't. Maybe they wanted $30 for it. I can't remember. I don't think I paid as little as 20, but somewhere in that ballpark. I mean, this was like an average price record, and so I said, absolutely, heck yeah. So, like I said, the color I have, they call it transparent black. And you can see it's very transparent. Kind of like the Coke bottle clears are like that little hint of green, but it's really clear. That's very transparent. And I was happy enough. I was like, colored vinyl always makes me happy. But it also came with a really big booklet. It's got a picture of the dragonfly on there. And some kind of tagline information on the back. And let's see, on the inside, artwork of the city. Oh, and it draws out to all the lyric sheets. And who do we got? Who do we got on the other side? Mr. and Mrs. Kilgannon themselves. Coheed and Cambria. That's 20th anniversary, limited edition, fun stuff. For the nerds, for the kids. It's all good stuff. So that's that. Like I said, this is one of 1,700, which is kind of cool to know because I didn't exactly know how many there were before. But that's not a lot of copies. And, will they reissue it again soon? Hard to say. I know right now they're really focusing on books. They ended up releasing comic books for the entire story of the Second Stage Turbine Blade. Like I said, I got the first single issue. They released a whole book's worth of issues, and I recently got that. I borrowed it to my buddy Anthony, and I got it back from him not too long ago. I bought a Prizefighter Inferno graphic novel at the show that's signed, and I got a reading list too. Like, of all the things that I do, I got a lot of interests. I got a lot of little things that keep me busy. I got my Zelda list that I'm playing through all those games, and I got a book list. I don't just pick what I want off the shelf. I read what I start what I'm reading, and I don't go to the next book till I finish it, type of thing. So that Coheed graphic novel, the Second Stage Turbine Blade, now that I understand so much more about it, because I tried to read it when I first bought it. It wasn't a cheap book either. But it was kind of heady. It was kind of hard to figure out. But I don't know. There's something about this age I'm in, this maturity, this clarity, being sober so long. It's like, I don't know. I just feel like I digest information better, and I understand things more. Like being able to watch the Aliens movies from the late 70s, early 80s, and I'm like, well, this story makes sense. Whereas before, I was just like 5 minutes in, and I'd be like, I don't understand what's going on, and I'd shut it off. So I'm very much looking forward to getting into that graphic novel too. But I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about Equal Vision, who we can, we can thank them for the reissue. We can thank them for many Hot Water Music records over the years. Equal Vision is good people. They were formed in the early 90s, and Ray Cappo was the vocalist for a band called Youth of Today, and he also sang for a band called Shelter. And Equal Vision was initially, they started to distribute Shelter records, but then they wanted to get in cahoots with other, what they call Krishna conscious artists in the hardcore scene. So that's a whole genre of people who, that's where the screaming isn't meant to be pain, rage. Like, well, it is pain and rage, but it's not for the purpose of destroying people. It's for the purpose of, call it a coping mechanism. They see it from a spiritual perspective. And that's a whole, could be a whole episode in and of itself. From what I've learned about it, it's positive mental attitude, hardcore. It's using hardcore as a vehicle to heal yourself and be good to people. Under the management of Steve Reddy, the label's expanded its roster to include a diverse range of artists across metal and punk genres. We've talked about Defiance Records before, but for anybody who missed the first episode, briefly, Defiance Records is based in Germany, founded in 1994. They're an independent record label known for releasing punk and hardcore music, including early pressings of albums by various international artists, such as Forever and Counting by Hot Water Music. We're welcome. These pressings reflect the enduring popularity of albums like the second stage Turbine Blade, and they operate in a collaborative way to help independent artists find a global audience. I wanted to discuss the artwork a little bit, obviously, as we usually do. The album artwork for Coheed and Cambria's second stage Turbine Blade was directed through Bill Scoville. The cover predominantly features a close-up image of a dragonfly, which has become a recurring symbol in the band's iconography. Bill Scoville is a graphic designer known for his work in the music industry, particularly with Equal Vision Records, a label that has released this second stage Turbine Blade. His designs contributes a significant role in shaping the visual identity of artists and various artists who are also associated with Equal Vision. The dragonfly on the album cover not only serves as a striking visual element, but also ties together thematic elements from the band's conceptual narrative. The symbol has been embraced by fans and is often associated in the band's early work. Bill Scoville is a graphic designer who is renowned for his significant contributions to this album artwork and others, particularly within the alternative and post-hardcore music scenes. I feel like I copy and pasted the same paragraph. No, beyond his work with Coheed and Cambria. All right, here we go. I wanted to know what other records he's responsible for. It's just fun for me to know who else we can associate artists with. And so he did not only the first Coheed record, but he also did Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3. He did The Year of the Black Rainbow. He did the Afterman Ascension and Dissension. So he did 5 Coheed albums. Scoville's design have been instrumental in shaping the band's visual identity, including... No way. What? No way. This guy's responsible for the creation of the keywork, which is the triangle with the circles. They say for Coheed and Cambria, this is what the universe looks like in their solar system. And I got Jesse Heike did this for me at Wingnut Studio a while back, and I guess I have a Scoville on my arm and I didn't even realize it. Thank you, Bill Scoville. He's also done work for Circa Survive, the record On Letting Go from 2007, and Blue Sky Noise from 2010. For these albums, he collaborated with Aso Andrews, who handled the layout and complemented it and operated as a complement to his work. Armor for Sleep has a record, Smile for Them, from 2007. Scoville was also responsible for The art direction and the design of that album contributed to its distinctive visual presentation. He did more work for Claudio on the My Brother's Blood Machine. He directed the art and design for that project, which has a custom 5-color die-cut jacket with a printed dust sleeve. I need to get my hands on that thing. That sounds phenomenal. The self-titled 2015 record, We Came as Romans, Scoville was responsible for that artwork as well. He's also a bass player for the band One King Down. His dual talents in music and visual arts have made him a respectable figure in the industry. So to wrap it up, that's all my notes. Hey, second stage Turbine Blade, bunch of cool stuff, bunch of great songs. And like I say, if you're somebody who's into 80s style prog rock, there's something here for you. You're into pop punk, there's something here for you. And if you are into, stories, specifically like sci-fi stories and stuff like that, and like having a record to listen to along with it, this is for you. Claudio's got a very unique voice and a very unique perspective when it comes to storytelling. A bunch of passionate guys, and like I said, they've been at it a long time. Originally forming Shibuti in 1995. That means this year, 05, 15, 30 years of playing tunes. It's great. It means a lot to me. I'm really happy to be spending some time talking about it, and I'm looking forward to. I'm only going to do episodes of records that I have in my collection. I am building a browsing bin to replace this shelf, and it's going to give us the room to expand. And I've got a list. I've got things I need to add to the collection, and it'll just give me more episodes I can do. I've had another couple of weeks of some really positive feedback, people tuning in, telling me they're enjoying the show, which I appreciate a lot, and had some questions about how many episodes I have planned and things of that nature. I said that I planned 10 initially. I'm already looking at my list of 10 and going, I know what else I want to talk about. I know what other records I want to go to. So I think every time I get like 5 episodes done, I'm going to add 5 more to the list and just kind of keep going until it's either not fun or I eventually run out of ideas. But yeah, I'm having a great time with this, and I'm glad that you all are enjoying it. And it's low maintenance. It's a good time. I love looking up these facts and learning more about these records. I love telling my stories about these albums, and so there's no good reason for me to quit putting these out every couple of weeks. It's a manageable amount of work, and yeah, I'm just glad that y'all are tuning in and checking it out. My last little segment of What's Spinning, we always got to talk about what have I been listening to for the last 2 weeks. Well, the last 2 weeks kind of started with hip-hop. I watched the Super Bowl. Kendrick Lamar halftime show. Thought it was fantastic. I had a great time. I didn't get weird on the symbolism. I didn't get weird on the politics. If there was supposed to be a message, I didn't get it. I thought it was fantastic. So I got real enamored with the meme of them yelling, mustard. So like, I got to get that Peanut shirt with the guy yelling mustard on it, because I just think it's awesome. And I went on Mustard's Spotify and I listened to his top hits. Wasn't for me. Too sexual. I can't do real graphic type. It just wasn't for me. But what I did get from it was that his production seems to be very orchestral. It seems like his melodies and his elements he adds to his beats, because he's a DJ first, it seems like, are very orchestral. And so he's responsible for a lot of the newer stuff that Kendrick Lamar's putting out, when you hear the strings in the beats, this is like a calling card that it's a DJ Mustard track. But I also realized I don't know that much about Kendrick Lamar. I just never really listened to him. He's one of those people that if someone had him on and they told me it was Kendrick Lamar, I just instinctively was like, oh yeah, I remember. I like him. He's decent dude. Puts out good tracks. So I've been listening to his top hits a lot. I gotta say, when he sings with SZA, this SZA lady, I think I'm saying it right. She was on the halftime show. She's on a couple of his top hits right now. They've got a couple of choruses that they sing together that it'll melt you to the chair. I mean, they're just beautiful songs. If you got a stomach for pop or hip hop at all, they're in the money right now for sure. But then the record Damn, another podcast I listened to, they were like not really saying one way or another what they thought about the Super Bowl, but they were like, I go back with Kendrick. I like the record Damn. I was like, I'm going to put that one on. I got about halfway through it. I liked everything I heard. It set me up for a good day on my way in and out of work. And then I listened to, like I said in the podcast, in the album dive, the Good Kid, Bad City concept album, because it's like, this is related to what I'm studying right now. And true enough, like I said, it is as good as advertised. So Kendrick Lamar gets a pass for sure. I've been listening to a lot of Medium Build again. If you haven't heard Medium Build's song Rage, that's a start. That's a jump off track. Putting vinyl on, cleaning house this week. We put on The Good Life, Help Wanted Nights. And I got to tell Kalen my story about me and Benno buying that record in Montana. We split the cost of it, and I let him have the download code. Or I can't remember if it came with a CD or a download code. But I said, you keep that, I'll keep the vinyl, because he didn't have a record player, and it was like $20. So we both had $10 on us, and we're like, yeah, that's fair. So it's good for Benno to know that we listened to Help Wanted Nights recently. And, of course, we have to follow it up with I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning. And Bright Eyes, on that note, Bright Eyes has got 20th anniversary merch for Digital Ash and I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning. There are license plate covers that I'm probably going to put it on my 1995 station wagon that I drive right now, because it would be sweet. They got ashtrays, they got clocks, they went weird with the merch for the 20th anniversary, and I'm proud of them for that. I've had to explain to some kids I work with recently what ska is. For some reason, it's just a genre that just certain people, certain times, certain groups, whatever. And so I just Mustard Plug, Less Than Jake, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. Just some clips, just some hits of like showing the kids Real Big Fish, right? Aquabats. We need to teach the kids what ska is, because it's not even that I like ska. I guess sometimes I like ska. I don't know. I think ska's fun to play drums to, but ultimately, like, am I reaching to ska? I'm reaching to Less Than Jake. I guess Less Than Jake counts as ska, kind of, but they got a little bit more. I don't know. They're a little bit more mellow, but I listened to ska for a couple days in my last couple weeks, teaching the kids about ska. It was important. A band came back up, Nothing Nowhere. They're on TikTok right now, making Does It Emo songs, and it's like top 40 hits. One of them was All Star by Smash Mouth, ridiculous, and he's like, Does It Emo, and then he makes it, and it's like, he makes Smash Mouth sound like Thursday, and you're like, what is this? It's so cool. And I love Nothing Nowhere, because I remember buying a t-shirt from them when they came through Minneapolis, opening for La Dispute and Thrice on the To Be Everywhere is To Be Nowhere tour. And I didn't have that much money with me, but I remember I had enough for one of their, it was like a $10 t-shirt. Like, they looked like they printed them themselves. And I was like, yeah, man, because their set was great. But I fell off with them. I didn't follow up. And then I remember a couple years wearing the shirt, and I was like, I need to look into them, because I wear this shirt, but do I even remember them? And it was like emo rap. And I was like, this doesn't seem like the same guy. This doesn't seem right. But then this video came up, got me to go back to the Spotify page. I scrolled down to the record that came out the same year that Thrice tour was. I put on a song from that record. I play it for Kaylin because she's all about Law Dispute and this really like just angsty Midwest emo right now. And she was like, I 100% could do this. This works for me. I was like, right, it worked for me too. So I'm back on Team Nothing Nowhere. They're great. Look up the guy. I almost think that Nothing Nowhere is kind of like a dude, and then like when he enlists people, kind of like a Bright Eyes thing, kind of like enlists people as he needs them, but he kind of can do a lot of stuff himself too, and uses the name as like his kind of brand. Look up Nothing Nowhere, specifically on TikTok, specifically the videos of Does It Emo. You will be either really confused or really entertained, but I thought it was great. There was a period of time this week too where we were talking about where some songs come from. So we're talking about Nirvana's Where Did You Sleep Last Night? Well, that's not his song, right? It's a Lead Belly song. Who's Lead Belly? Had to dive into the foundation of the blues to explain to, I think it was my wife, we were talking about it. And she hears it and she's like, oh, that's haunting. I'm like, right, it was haunting then. And I'm glad Kurt brought it up. But Lead Belly is serious business. Dig into some old blues. Led our conversation to talking about one of my favorite references when we talk about songs that weren't originally written by somebody, but somebody else really made their own and really made wonderful. The First Cut is the Deepest. Because that song, I always knew it as a Sheryl Crow song. I learned about this one in college. It was my vocal production class. And shout out Pamela McNeil. But could have been my songwriting class with her too. But I remember talking about The First Cut is the Deepest and just groaning because I like hate Sheryl Crow. I just think she's bland, just generic, just Target. Like I just don't like her. It's fine. Be mad. I don't like Sheryl Crow. Whatever. And I thought that was her song and I thought it sucked. And then I heard Rod Stewart sing it and it broke my heart. And I didn't know what to do about that. And then I heard Leonard Cohen. No, not Leonard Cohen. It's Cat Stevens. It's Yasif. Is that what he calls him? Yasif. What's his name? I mean, we all knew him as Cat Stevens. He rebranded himself when he converted to Islam, but the Cat Stevens version is pretty good. It's the bedrock. You can't mess with Cat Stevens. It's all right. It's miles better than Sheryl Crow trashing it. I like Sheryl Crow's version more now that I've heard the other ones. But Rod Stewart, man, I hated that guy. I thought he was boring. I thought it was just shoved down your throat, classic rock stuff forever. And I hear him singing that song, and I'm just like, all of a sudden, I'm feeling like he's sitting next to me in a chair, and I'm like, I owe you an apology, sir. Because I get this. And I don't know why. It's a particular thing with me and that song. I get it. So that's how that worked with me. But my 2-week period has rounded out with me basically listening to nothing but Thursday. I finished my notes for this Coheed episode and I started looking at next 2 weeks. Who are we going to be talking about? War All the Time. One of the greatest albums of all time by the lovely band Thursday, right? And as I'm spending a little time getting my notes just structured and stuff like that, some songs are coming up, some lyrics are coming up, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to listen to this. I have to put this on, and I can't stop. I've listened to all 3 of the first albums, the ones that I knew. And now before I go to bed at night, I'm listening to the first track on the 4th album, just one song per night, and I'm reading the lyrics along with it, looking for gold. Because I didn't realize they had 3 more frickin' records. I knew they had 1 new single out. I didn't know they had 3, and it looks like an album is ensuing. all I'm going to say, I'm not going to get too much into Thursday because we've got a lot to talk about 2 weeks from now. But what I will say is I sent a message to the group chat that resonated hard. And if anybody else from that time period or from my area or both, if this means something to you, then I think that we're friends. We get it. We get each other. I sent the Swenoda group chat. All I said was, driving around Benson, listening to Cross Out the Eyes, and I forgot what year it is. And it's awesome. It's just, man, that was a time. And I just love Thursday. And I'm listening to a lot of Thursday. And I'm really glad that I remembered how much I love Thursday because they make my life better. Last thing I want to mention about new music. It's not something that I've been listening to, but it's something I received. Valentine's Day. My wife nailed it. She got me the new Hot Water Music split with Quicksand. It's a split LP. 2 songs from each. 2 songs on each side. It's an LP run at 45, which is the highest quality analog signal you can get off a piece of vinyl. They're geniuses. I'm so happy. I didn't even know it existed. I opened this thing up and my jaw hit the floor. It looks like they cover each other and then they play one of their own songs. 4 songs altogether. I don't know who Quicksand is, but I'm going to give you a little clue as to who Quicksand thinks they are. Because, you know, we've seen people cover Hot Water Music on splits before. Exhibit A, Alkaline Trio, right? They did riff tops. It was real weird. Credit where credit's due. They did the job. Quicksand covered Free Radio Gainesville. Who do they think they are? I have not dropped the needle on this record yet. I cannot wait to. I got the next 2 days off. I'm going to be checking that out. I will be giving my opinion on it next 2 weeks from now. But as soon as I read that, I just looked at it. I'm like, I don't know who you are, Quicksand. And I'm telling my wife, I'm like, these guys got balls. Free Radio Gainesville's an institution as far as Hot Water Music goes. You have got to have some cojones to try and, even bass playing wise, I don't think Jay can play it. I know I can't play it. It's nuts. And it's an important song from No Division that just defined a time period. It's a very important song. Quicksand's got a lot of guts. Hey, cheers to him for having guts. You know what I mean? Don't be scared of the world. Just do things. It's fine. But on that note, I'm going to say check out all of the social media accounts I have for Midwest Nowhere and for Swenoda. Please, we're on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We are on TikTok. We're on X. And check out the merch link. Throw a little money at Tyler's GoFundMe for his surgeries, please. And yeah, you're supposed to smash the like button, hit subscribe, keep those numbers moving. They're all moving in the right direction. I appreciate the views going up. I appreciate the subscribers going up on YouTube. That's very good. And yeah, until next time, thanks for listening.